It's Christmas time. Oh, hello, everybody. It's me, Chris Smith. And look who's here with me. It's my mother, Betty.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Betty.
everybody.
You know, many viewers, Betty, have written to me and said, ask your mother about some of the things from history. Because, you know, you're a woman of a certain age. Is it all right if I tell the viewers how old you are, or if you tell
I'm
them?
proud of it. I'm 95.
95 years
95.
old. So she has
Absolutely.
almost seen a whole century of activity. That is amazing, Betty, and we're very blessed to have had you
Yes.
all this time.
Thank
Thank you, God. But
That's
so,
right.
we're going to ask Betty about some of the things in history and see if you had any recollections or
I
comments on
probably forgot them all.
Well, I bet you remember when we mentioned them. Now, even though you were born in 1928, what do you remember about the Great Depression, which started in 1929?
Well, as I said, I heard about the Depression. I may have lived in part of it, but I do not remember. I was just a small child.
So you weren't depressed during the Great Depression.
You mean had less?
You didn't feel like you had a lot less to eat or go to bed hungry.
No. As I said, as I told you before, my dad raised huge gardens, and he'd take those boys, you know, they were in their teens and
Her
stuff,
brothers.
I guess, whatever age, and he'd take them to the garden, and they'd raise a big garden. He'd get them up early in the morning, and he'd take them berry picking. And my mother would make jelly and stuff like that out of it, preserves. And my mom would have us kids scrub up the jars, and we'd can all that stuff. I hated canning time. We had to scrub all those jars up and then sterilize them and all that.
How many jars would you say there were?
I had no idea.
Hundreds of jars.
I don't remember.
Now, did you keep all the stuff that was canned for yourself, or did you all sell some or give them to people?
No, we ate it.
So it was just for the family?
Yeah.
None for the neighbors?
You know, if somebody came in and hungry or something. And my mother's family lived close by, so they did the same thing. People that knew how to garden and stuff, that's what happened with that.
Did you have lots of vegetables along with your berries
all the
and stuff?
time.
So you all were probably pretty healthy while you were growing up.
We were.
Huh. Well, now
Yes,
we
sir.
have lots of preservatives in our food, and we're not very healthy as a people.
That's right.
Now, what did you think? You were more of sound mind during World War II, which started officially for the United States in 1941 with the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
What do you remember about those times?
Well, you know, I remember what I saw. We only had the radio then, you know. We didn't have television.
No
and
TV,
stuff like
no
that.
CNN.
No. And people would gather around the radio and listen to the news. And if we were lucky enough to go to a movie, they would have the news on screen, and we'd watch it. Some of the
those little reels
news
before the movie that would tell you what was going on. So a lot of the times when you went to the movies, that was the first time you were hearing some of this news.
Except by the radio.
Huh. What about news? You had newspapers and stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because
We delivered it.
You delivered newspapers.
I delivered the one that told about the beginning of World War II.
Now, was that the
I was
first?
13.
Was that the first time you heard about it when you were delivering the paper, or had you heard about it on the radio?
Well, you know, there was news about conflict and all that stuff. And
were people upset? Were people like crying in the streets, or?
where I live?
Yeah.
No.
But people were enlisting, right? Like
Oh
men were
yeah. Oh
enlisting
yes.
and going off. Because
And,
you told me recently about your neighbor that got killed in World War II.
yeah.
Tell about that one. She
The
used to
one that
swing
used to ride down
yeah.
his arm.
Betty had this neighbor who was big and strong, but in school with you, right? He was like
Yeah, he was in the
he
same
was a
grade.
neighborhood
Yeah.
boy, and he would let you ride on his arms on the
He
way
was
home.
just, I'd hang on to his arm and he'd swing me just for
Aww.
fun.
And he got killed during
He
World War
did.
II.
He did.
Oh, that's so
He was in the
sad.
Navy.
Do you remember what his name was?
Yes. Let me think now. Huh. I'll have to think about that one.
She remembered it the other day when we were talking about it, but we'll remember. For now, we'll call him Mike.
No, he wasn't a Mike.
He wasn't Mike. But I remember you telling me the story of the girl that was going to beat you up because you had good penmanship.
No, it wasn't that.
Wasn't
it?
it?
Was photogenic.
Oh,
They take
yes.
the pictures,
They
pass
took
them through the school, and my picture was chosen as the most photogenic. And she was jealous,
They took school pictures, and Betty's was the most photogenic, so this girl was like, I'm going to kick your ass after school. That is hilarious. So that boy that had the big old strong muscular arms protected you on the way home and kept that girl from kicking your butt.
Yeah,
That's
he rode
hilarious.
me on his arm going home, and she went on home.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what do you remember about the music? Because you all had good music.
Oh,
you had
yeah,
like
we
the
had
big band music.
We had a hit parade.
Hit parade.
Uh-huh.
Was this like a show on the radio, and it would play like the top music of the land?
Yeah.
Because they didn't have. Did they have the Billboard Top 100 back then? Probably
I doubt
not.
it.
Let's ask Alexa when it started. Alexa, when did the Billboard Top 100 start?
Billboard was founded on January 1st, 1894 by Luminate, William H. Donaldson, and Eldridge Industries. Top 1 by Reppes and Fox, featuring Oak Sue Kant, was released on August 13th, 2022.
Huh, that doesn't tell us anything because I wasn't listening. The minute she said 1894, I turned my
1894?
Well, anyway.
Oh, really?
Anyway, Betty listened to my hit parade or whatever, and you got your music there.
The hit parade.
The hit parade. Now, what did you think
well,
of
that was just,
it was like
once a week or
yeah.
something. I don't remember.
And did you listen to all the radio serials back in the day? Like the continuing sagas?
Dark Shadow.
Dark Shadow. Or no, The Shadow Knows.
The Shadow Knows.
The Shadow Knows.
Well,
because Dark Shadows
it was
several.
and I could get it on the radio. I could get those stories on the radio. And I'd listen to them often.
Did you ever listen to The Guiding Light?
I don't know if that was on the radio or not.
It was on the radio.
Well, if it was on the radio, I heard it.
And then it went to TV in 1952.
Oh, okay.
But, okay, so were you upset when music went from like your big band and stuff to rock and roll? Did you like rock and roll, or were you
I liked some of it, and the country music today has changed drastically.
But did you like country music back in the olden days?
Yeah, and we even had a radio station in Williamson that would play country music, and they also had people come in and do live shows. So, in fact, I had 2 uncles that participated in that.
Huh. Where they were like singers or musicians?
Singers.
Huh. I did not know this. Now, so what did you think of, say, Elvis Presley?
Well, Elvis was okay, but I never was a real fan of
You
his.
weren't like screaming.
No, no.
I think you told me before that when you were a younger girl, Frank Sinatra was like the one that all the girls were
16.
throwing
I was
their...
15 or 16. 16, I think.
And girls would throw their panties and stuff at Frank
Well, I
Sinatra.
don't know. I never did see any flying panties. But I wasn't a real big fan of Frank Sinatra either.
God
Can you
forgive me,
believe
I
that?
never liked Frank Sinatra. I mean, I like New York, New York, and some of his the classics that he sang.
I like that movie he was in with, who was that girl that was in that with him? You know, when they was on the beach and everything.
I don't know. I missed it. My mommy wouldn't let me go see Frank Sinatra movies. I was like, Mama, can I go back in time and see some Frank Sinatra movies? And she was like, no! Now, what did you think about the Beatles? I know your kids were crazy about the Beatles. Not me, I wasn't born. But I like them.
Yeah, I like the Beatles. I loved their tunes. Yeah.
So you weren't like, while the kids were listening to it, you weren't like, turn that racket down.
No.
Now, what did Irvin, my father, and your husband think about it? Did he like that kind of music, or was he
Was he around when the Beatles was?
Well, yeah, he was around, because they
He
came
died
like
in
in
73.
Yeah, they came in like the 60s, like what, 63
Oh,
or
okay.
something? 60.
He liked, what was that black man's name?
Sammy
he
Davis
like?
Jr.
No. And he called him his...
No, don't say it.
I won't. I wasn't going to.
we won't
I
say
wasn't
it.
going to.
No, I know you weren't.
So what else you want to know?
Okay. Nixon. What did you think of Nixon?
I like Nixon.
President Nixon.
I liked him.
Was he a Republican?
Yeah.
Oh, it figures that Betty was like him.
Yeah, I like Nixon.
But weren't you upset when he had to resign in shame after that Watergate scandal?
Well, I wasn't upset. I felt sorry for the incident and how it got out of control.
Now, you know what's funny? Isn't it a little quaint now if we look at what Nixon did compared to what some later leaders have done?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like Nixon did very
No,
much.
I know.
And not only did Nixon wasn't, forced out, he resigned peacefully.
Yeah.
And now you can't get him to resign if you even try.
No.
Vietnam, was that a painful time for you?
That was, well, I had relatives in it, Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Yes, there's not much you can say about
No,
war.
really.
It's hell.
I'll tell you one thing that's cute, I remember, is all my friends and I would get together. We lived just below the interstate. That was before the flood. We had the big flood that destroyed our homes at the time.
Oh, this was when you were in
Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. And we'd all get together and climb this little hill, walk across the big bridge, and there was a place called Jansen Beach. I've told you the story. And they had large pools there. They had a big place where they had name bands come in for dancing, and they had all kinds of rides, stuff like that. And we didn't do that that was destroyed in the flood.
Oh.
So
We should do an episode where we talk a little bit about the flood, because Betty has harrowing stories about that. Oh, just terrifying. We're going to do a special episode on that next. Now, what did you think about the Reagans in the 80s?
I liked
Ronald Reagan,
I liked him.
Nancy Reagan.
he was a movie star before he became president.
Now, were you a fan of him when he was
Yes,
a movie star?
I liked him.
So you were like, va 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 voom, let me vote for...
Voom. Nancy
Let me
was,
vote for
Nancy was nice lady.
Now, you know, Nancy, when I was a little child, the Reagans were the president, and of course, the first lady was Nancy Reagan, not Ronald Reagan. He was the president. Nancy Reagan always scared me because she was so stern and thin, and she was like, just say no to drugs, and just say no.
Absolutely.
And now that I'm older, and I think that marijuana is a little fun, if taken, you know, in small doses. I'm like, Nancy was trying to keep people from relaxing a little. I think she was just a little too.
She didn't want that brain destroyed by drugs.
Well, our brains have been destroyed by much more than that, Nancy.
I know.
Well, anyway,
Like the COVID.
Betty and I always have I always tell Betty that, well, I probably shouldn't say it, but I will. Whenever somebody dies, I always say, if it's somebody bad, I always say, they're going to be having dinner with the Reagans in hell.
Oh.
And Betty always hates that. And I feel terrible for saying it.
No, I like the Reagans.
But I
thought
just
they were
picture
good.
Nancy serving up a big old rat platter in hell.
And he'd said, destroy that, open that wall,
Yeah, he
tear down
said,
that wall.
Mr.
Colonel."
Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
And they did.
And you know they did.
Absolutely.
Well, that has been a fascinating walk through history. Before we
Some
go,
of it.
what do you think about today's world, Betty?
Oh, crappy. It's a crappy world.
That's
now.
her professional take on it, viewers.
Yeah,
do
it's crappy.
Do you think there's any hope for the future?
Well, God's in control. God is in control, and if we depend on God, let Him lead us through everything that we're going to go through. And if you're not ready for it, look out.
So get ready.
Yeah, fasten your seatbelt.
Oh, and before we go, look who else is here.
Oh.
Not that he has anything to do with God. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Lucius.
It's me, Lucius.
Hi, Lucius.
Hello, Betty.
Hi, Lucius. You're cute.
Thank you. You're cute, too.
Thank
You know, people have been writing to us saying that Betty is adorable and cute because she appeared in my Barbie episode, which aired recently. And Betty, tell them what you said when I said that people were saying you were adorable.
I said, well, I said it wasn't me that was adorable. It's because I was old. I was old, and people are looked upon, you know, as adorable, I guess.
I thought that people were looked at as old weren't even paid attention to. I thought they ignore you when you're old. So.
Well, it's just according to who you are, I guess.
I like old people. They
Good
smell
for
like
you, Lucius.
mothballs.
Good for you, Lucius.
Oh, well, anyway, thank you, Betty, for talking to us, and
You're
Lucius
welcome.
for making an appearance.
Yeah.
You didn't get very much to do. You got bumped to the end of the couch, much like those comics on Johnny Carson's show. But
You got
anyway,
a booger?
No, he's got a little piece of something right here. There, it's gone. Okay, so everybody, we'll see you next time on It's Christmas Time. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.